And we are connecting and waiting to go. And we are almost live. We're seeing black right now. There we go. And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another live stream. Guys, it's been a little bit since we've made a live stream over on this channel. I wish I could live stream a little bit more. Got my own notification. Looks like we are just about to go over here. Guys, I'm going to give BetSam a call this weekend. Oh, crap. Oh, never mind. He changed the channel name. I was like, he referred me as BetSam, but his handle's still BetSlam with Sam. So we're gonna be doing a full card breakdown today with BetSam. He's already live. A little bit difficult to get the times all going on over here. So regardless, I'm gonna get right into it. I'm gonna give this guy a call, and then we're gonna break down some fights. I think I got the Tapology all ready, good to go over here. Looks good. All right, I'm gonna give BetSam a call. Let's see what we can get going on over here, guys. Thank you so much for coming. There we go.
Welcome, Clenbat, to the stream.
Hello. Right. Sorry, I got here as quick as I could.
That's all good. Guys, can you let me know if the volume is good on Clenbat joining in here?
And same on my end. I think I had you at the right volume last time, assuming you didn't change anything with your mic, so I think we're good over here.
Alrighty.
How's it going?
Well, it's going great, man. You know, we've just been talking about UFC Tampa, and so we're gonna jump back now to the beginning of UFC 310.
I was listening. It's my fault. I had everything set while I was getting everything set up.
yeah. A couple of spoilers on what we're gonna argue on then.
That's all right.
To start off, guys, I'm just going to say, if you guys haven't seen Clenbat's channel, Clenbat has been doing this longer than me. Go check him out. It is at Clenbat. You know, it's in the title of the stream. And yeah, Clenbat is a capper like myself. He's an MMA enthusiast, and he likes to talk about fights.
Well, thank you very much. And same over here at BetSam. I have the handle over in the title, which I appreciate you doing as well. So the link's nice and easy for anybody to check out if they want to check out. I'm excited to talk about some fights.
All right, first on the card, we have Kennedy Nzechukwu taking on Lukas Drzeski. You start us off on your prediction here, and, you know, I'll jump in after.
Well, you know, sometimes I look at Kennedy Nzechukwu, and I'm like, okay, a little bit low volume. He's a decently well-rounded fighter. He pretty much relies on his power, in my opinion, but I always worry about when I'm picking him if he just shows up and looks a little bit low volume. But on the other hand, you have Lukas Drzeski, who I don't think there's really a ton to break down on him because he's kind of well-rounded. He's athletic for the division. To be honest with you, I just see Kennedy catching him in this one. I don't think there's a ton to break down with this particular fight. What do you think?
I'm going to start off by saying that from former predictions of yours, you've really lost hope in Lukas Drzeski.
Yeah.
I definitely remember in the past you talking about him. You're like, guys, everybody's underestimating Lukas Drzeski, and now you're like, this fucking guy. You know?
to be fair, I've never like glazed him as he was a great fighter or anything. I just think that he had a lot of potential. Like I said, he's athletic for the division. He's capable of winning.
Yeah. No, okay. Well, for my pick here, Kennedy Nzechukwu, right, has come up to heavyweight, and he beat Chris Barnett. Chris Barnett is like a really fat welterweight, all right? He's just a fat welterweight that refuses to do anything other than eat Popeye's chicken and not get in shape, right? And he turned up out of shape on short notice and got injured in that fight. So Kennedy Nzechukwu, as far as I'm concerned, doesn't have a heavyweight win. You've shit the bed against OSP. Stay the hell away from this fight. Do not bet this fight.
Do not
touch it. And as far as the pick goes, it's got to be Kennedy because Lukas Drzeski struggles mightily to get a win inside the UFC against anybody.
But I worry about Kennedy showing up and just not doing much. So
I mean, don't bet on it.
I'm so with you on that. So easy first fight. Is that all we got for the first fight?
It's gonna get slower as we move up the card. I assure you.
Oh yeah, I'm excited for the next fight already, man. I'm already excited. Are you? You're on Tapology still, right?
I'm chilling on Tapology.
Okay, so we got the same fight order.
Yeah. We got Clay Guida, Chase Hooper next. You know, I'll let you run that one as well. Let's go.
All right, we got Clay Guida, well-rounded fighter, excels in grappling, breaking you with pace. He has a ton of heart, ton of cardio, still for his age, and he's moving pretty well for his age, I will say. But unfortunately, he is still past his prime. I love Clay Guida. Love watching him fight. He's taking on Chase Hooper, who's a grappler with a ton of heart. He's always on the attack, trying to drag his opponents to the ground. He likes to use ground and pound, find submissions, and he seems to be improving every single time that we've seen him. And I've taken a look at Chase Hooper, and I don't know if anybody else is listening to Chase Hooper interviews. They don't pull like a ton of views, but he's been really, really putting in the work and his skill instead of actually just cutting the weight. So I think that's probably why we're seeing nice improvement from him. I could see this one being the parlay buster, but I am going to pick Chase Hooper. He's improving every single time we see him. We already know like that he can take on Clay Guida in the grappling department. Clay is still very, very capable at this age, and he could pull out some veteran moves that Chase isn't ready for. Maybe he's ready for everything that Chase Hooper's coming at him with. I think it's going to be a good fight. I think it's going to be a decision, but I am picking Chase Hooper.
Interesting. Okay, well, Clenbat going with Chase Hooper by decision. I'm going to start off by saying that these guys have already had a grappling match, and Chase Hooper, once he got into his position, subbed Clay Guida very easily, and it looked like he was toying with his meal. That being said, an MMA fight and a grappling contest are two very different things. So assuming that Clay Guida just gets subbed and goes out here against Chase Hooper is nonsense. But Clay Guida, look, he's 42 years old, and it says here, and 11 months. So the guy's 43 years old. And Clay Guida didn't look that young when he was 35. So the reality is here is that Clay the Carpenter is one of those guys where he's come forward, he doesn't really have heavy hands, his submissions are lackluster, he's a control merchant, and it just isn't what you want to see out of a fighter that's taking on a young prospect. I don't know why they're making this matchup. I think that it is tailor-made for, one second, I'm just going to mute my Discord here. No, I can't do that. I got to switch into streamer mode. Freaking, I could hear the bleeping in the background. That should fix it.
You can mute individual chats too.
Yeah, I just fixed that, I think. Anyway, so we got Chase Hooper taking on Clay Guida. Chase Hooper dropped Vyacheslav Borchev, and a lot of people have been quick to dismiss Slava Claus as being competition, good competition. They go, it's Slava, it is what it is. Slava Claus is an incredible striker, right? Given his record being patchy, whatever, it doesn't matter. Chase Hooper surprised the fuck out of me in that matchup here. I did not expect to see him put hands on Slava Claus, so I think Chase Hooper is both live for a KO against a 43-year-old, like, let that sink in, 43 years old. He's live for the KO against a 43-year-old man here. We just saw this with RDA, right? RDA went out there, had an injury. You know, people, their bodies just don't hold up forever. And I think Clay Guida is going to be one of those guys as well, where unfortunately his will to fight is going to exist long past his capacity to win. So Chase Hooper is going to win in this fight. I think he wins inside the distance. I think you could get burnt if you play this by submission, because Clay Guida could get injured in the grappling exchanges and it could go down as a TKO. We saw it happen with Roman Dolidze and Kevin Holland. You know, there are things that happen in the sport that you don't expect, and they will still fuck your bets. So I'm taking Chase Hooper. I believe he gets it done inside of 2 rounds.
Yeah, I think that was very well said. I think it was very, very well said. And I was surprised with the Borchev fight as well, man. Like, those were arguable 10-7 rounds. How often do you see that?
I mean, did you see Slava Claus's head was all covered in welts after that fight? So Chase Hooper clearly hits hard, man. Like, the dude hits hard.
Yeah, and like I said, he's improving. He seems to be improving every single time that we see him, and I have no reason to believe that he's not going to continue to improve.
All right, well, moving on. We got Michael. What are we, 2 for 2 in agreement now here?
Looks like it.
Now, hopefully we have some arguments coming up here soon. We got Michael Chiesa taking on Max Payne Griffin. Look, Michael Chiesa, a plus 130 underdog in this one, and Max Griffin, a minus 155 slight favorite, as it says there. Michael Chiesa is 37 years old, and Max Payne is 39 years old, but sometimes age linearly and what you're seeing in front of you are two different things. Michael Chiesa looked incredibly slow taking on Tony Ferguson. Yes, he got the win, but Tony Ferguson is now on, I believe, Clenbat, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Tony Ferguson went from one of the longest win streaks of UFC history to now the longest losing streak. So
he broke it.
I mean, just beating that guy doesn't do anything for me. I feel like everybody at the cookout has beaten Tony Ferguson in a fight in the past few years. So it is what it is.
Unfortunately, Max Griffin, I think that I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you go. No, go for it. Go,
Unfortunately, I think anybody in the division at this point would be Tony Ferguson. It's sad, but he doesn't have it anymore.
It's right. Max Griffin in this fight. I'm going to go first here. Max Griffin, I think, is a little bit younger as far as what he's still got left in the tank here than Michael Chiesa. The problem being is that Michael Chiesa in the grappling department is definitely miles ahead of Max Griffin. And the question you have to ask yourself is Michael Chiesa going to be able to get to his spot? Because I don't think he's going to do enough to win a decision, and I don't think he's going to get a knockout here. So is he going to be able to get Max Griffin in a compromised position and find the submission? I ultimately don't believe he is going to be able to. And I could see Max Griffin winning this fight by either KO or decision based off of damage. Even if Michael Chiesa gets some empty control time here, I don't think it's going to calculate to more of the offense that Max Griffin is going to be able to deliver. But again, like the first fight of the night, I do think there are a lot of fights on this card, and I think you should just stay away from betting this one. Over to you.
I'm definitely with you on staying away from this one. I think it's a 50-50 fight. I have no clue who's going to win. If you had a gun to my head, I'd put it to Chiesa because at least I see... But even in saying that, like, I don't know if it's a clear path to victory because I could see it. Like, I think there's a possibility of doing kind of what he did to Tony Ferguson where it's like not a ton's happening until he gets a hold of Max Griffin. And then once he gets a hold of Max Griffin, perhaps that's when he can use it as advantage. But I don't even know if that's going to happen because, I mean, Griffin's a capable grappler as well. Both of them are up there in age. I think I'm with you on staying away from this one for sure. If you had a gun to my head, I'd pick Chiesa because of the more clear path to victory. But again, like, no chance I'm betting on this fight at all, even any round lines.
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay, well, and your official pick for it is going to be?
Michael Chiesa.
Michael Chiesa. You think he gets it done by sub?
Oh man, I don't know.
If you're picking, we gotta do the methods.
Yeah, I'll say submission. I'll say submission.
All right, yeah.
That's one of the toughest ones.
Yeah.
Ready
this
to
one
continue
here,
on?
we might disagree on this one. I got
All right.
Cody Durden taking on Joshua Van. Cody Durden is a plus 135 underdog. The comeback at the moment is minus 165 for Joshua Van. Who do you have and why? I'm sending it over to you, Clenbat.
Dude, I am all over Joshua Van on this fight. And I made the breakdown video and I've gotten a few comments on pushback. Like, absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm so high on this guy. He's an incredible boxer. He has an insane chin, great pressure, sneaky leg kicks, takedowns behind it. His body work is money. His speed is good. He'll walk forward and pick you apart. He has all the heart in the world. He seems to be improving a little bit with each fight. You can never count him out. And in his last fight against Edgar Chairez, well, I know, like, it was a war back and forth, but that just made me feel more confident in him. He's only 23 years old and already fighting through those types of battles. I think that he did a fantastic job in that fight. It showed that, in my opinion, he really did belong. He's one of those guys that has all the heart in the world to take it to the top of the game. Cody Durden is a great fighter too. He's a powerful wrestler. He has your typical overhand. He wants to dive at you, wrestle, break you down. He has great control, scrambles, BJJ. And he's also one of those guys that, like I said, he has a ton of heart. He said in one Octagon interview he'd rather die than tap out, and he proves he has that mindset. He's a great fighter too, but I am just all over Joshua Van. I think no matter what Cody Durden comes in, tries to take him down, I think, like, I could see Joshua Van getting taken down, but I think he'll be able to deal with it all. And I think he's miles better in the stand-up department. I'm picking Joshua Van. I'm going to pick him by decision, though. I think he's just going to outwork Cody Durden.
All right, fair enough. Okay, yeah. Little thing about Joshua Van, this is a hill where I'm not going to die on, but something that I personally have said and others have disagreed with me. What do you think about Joshua Van versus Charles Johnson? I really do believe that was an early stoppage. I think that fight was not done. I think that Joshua Van, hadn't been KO'd inside the UFC banner before, got caught with a shot, didn't get given a chance to recover. I think it was an early stoppage.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that. I didn't really have an issue with the stoppage either, though. I could just, it's one of those where I can see both sides. And while we're talking about the Charles Johnson loss, I've also gotten a few people talking about, well, he just lost to Charles Johnson, but I think Charles Johnson's also... I think Charles Johnson's also an underrated fighter. Like, he can scrap.
He's improved as well. Charles Johnson was he was over on the We Want Picks channel, and he was there during a call-in show, and he talked about how this was a while ago, and you'd still be able to go back and watch it though. He was talking about how he's made improvements, and he feels more comfortable in the octagon, feels like he's coming into his own, and that is ahead of the time where he lost to Cody Durden. So all the people saying, he lost to Cody Durden, well, Charles Johnson says he's a better fighter now than he was then. So I'm going to take him at his word and say that that's not the same loss as, the guy that fought Joshua Van. And he did lose that second round before going to the third. I just want to say that.
It was looking very troubling for him.
I'm going to go ahead and put my prediction in for this fight. Okay, Cody Durden fought Matt Schnell, right? And Matt Schnell, obviously Cody Durden did come into that fight on short notice, if you guys don't know. And Matt Schnell was an underdog. I picked Matt Schnell in that fight, and it was looking so good for me in that first round. Matt Schnell was landing at will on Cody Durden. Whenever he initiated an exchange and as well as countering, he was landing the harder shots. He was landing more shots on Cody Durden. And Cody Durden was walking forward, acting like he was the Terminator and getting stunned. I believe my count for it was that he got stunned 3 times by Matt Schnell, who can't seem to put a win together inside of the UFC. Now he's taking on Joshua Van, who has sharper boxing, who has better head movement. He has better cardio, and every single fight we see better improvements from Joshua Van. The kid's only 23 years old, you know. His whole future is ahead of him here. You know, people are talking about losing to Charles Johnson there. I think the opportunity for him to come back in that fight was taken away from him. Joshua Van has looked nothing except gain. He's fought so many times this year, and Cody Durden has to get this fight to the mat to survive. Joshua Van, I believe, can get taken down. And as long as he doesn't give up his neck in positions, I don't think he's going to get submitted in any other way. And Joshua Van here, I think he's going to get to that body, man. I think that Cody Durden swings wild hooks. I see Joshua Van ducking underneath them, finding the body rips, hurting Cody Durden, going body, head, body, head. Cody Durden's going to back up, throw a lazy takedown, then Joshua Van's going to step back into range, rip to the body, finish Cody Durden, round 2, body shot, lock it in. That's my official prediction.
Ooh, I can see that happening. I think Cody Durden's tough enough to last, but Van's body work really is money. And he's really, like, he puts it together really nicely, making you think about where each shot's being put. Like, he's so good, man.
Yeah. What was Cody Durden's last fight? I honestly don't remember.
His last fight was against Matt Schnell.
Was it Matt Schnell?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
And then before that was the 2-loss streak.
And he got finished viciously by what was it, Bruno Silva?
He got knocked out by Silva.
The mini Bruno Silva, guys.
And then got submitted by Tagir Ulanbekov.
Yeah, Tagir's good, man. I can't wait to see Tagir back in here because Tagir was actually fighting Joshua Van, and he was going to be my slam of the week. I thought he was going to sub him.
I was so excited for that fight.
Yeah, I think he was going to sub him. Tagir's better than Cody Durden in the submission department. He's bigger, he's longer, he's good at using those long limbs to find the submissions. So yeah,
that's a tough fight.
I was on Tagir in that fight.
I was as well. But I'm so excited about Joshua Van's future.
So we're both on Van here. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Chris Weidman and Eric Anders, I'll let you kick this one off.
All right. Chris Weidman, one of my favorite fighters of all time, but we're not going to let any heart get in the way of any picks here, okay? He's a well-rounded fighter who is primarily a wrestler. Unfortunately, he is well past his prime. After the leg break, as he's aged, he is now slow, sloppy, and hesitant, kind of relying on his toughness, in my opinion, to just carry him through the bouts. Eric Anders, on the other hand, while he's also past his prime, he's still a decently well-rounded fighter for the division. He's big, strong, he has good power, he has a pretty strong wrestling game. There's nowhere he really shines, but he's a decently fighter overall. I do think, like I said, though, his age is catching up to him. He seems to slow down a little bit as the fight progresses, and he's been hittable. In my opinion, though, even though he got the win against Bruno Silva, that I think both of them looked like crap. He got the eye poke win, and I think he was on his way to winning, but still, he was so slow. He was so sloppy. At least with Eric Anders, like, even just in his last win, Jamie Pickett looked okay. Like, he doesn't shine Eric Anders, but I think he's good enough to beat the Chris Weidman in the state that Chris Weidman's in right now. If this was Chris Weidman before the leg break, or even years before that, I'd be very confident Chris Weidman would get the job done, but I just don't think he's the same guy. So the pick is going to be Eric Anders. I don't think he's going to finish Weidman, so I'm going to pick him by decision.
You're picking Eric Anders by decision.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Your boy, Eric Anders. I'm going to start off by saying that Chris Weidman, and close your ears, Clenbat. I don't want to hurt your feelings here. Chris Weidman is a cheating piece of shit,
dude,
okay?
Talk
about your favorite fighter, whatever. You go back and rewatch that fight. Even take away the sound in that fight. Every time that Bruno Silva started to make advancements in the second round, I'll give Chris Weidman the first round. He did what he needed to do without cheating. You know, he got the wrestling done. You know what he did? He got a little tired in the second round. And that's when Bruno Silva started blitzing forward. You know what met Bruno Silva every time he blitzed forward? 2 to 3 fingers at eye level every single fucking time.
You're right.
Bruno Silva, every time he would close the distance, his opportunities to get in on Chris Weidman were taken away from him. The reffing in that fight was disgusting. And Chris Weidman finished that fight with the left right eye poke fucking combo. The only left right eye poke combo I've ever seen in my life to end a finishing sequence. And in the post-fight interview, he had the opportunity to say, you know, it was terrible about the eye pokes. I apologize for that. You know, there was some controversy. No, he doubled down on it and said you shouldn't fall down when you get poked in the eye. What a piece of shit. Chris Weidman, I'm going to poke you in the fucking eyes if I ever see you at a UFC event. You are a scumbag. I hope you lose this fight, and I hope you stay fighting. I hope you get knocked out for the next 6, 7, 8 fucking fights in your career. You are an absolute scumbag. Give me Eric Anders to win this fight. I hope he knocks him out viciously and snaps his leg again.
Oh my God. You know what? It left such a salty taste in my mouth, man, because I've watched Weidman for so long, been a big fan of his, and there's no defending what he did, right? It just sucks.
On a broader sense, I was incredibly disappointed being an MMA and UFC fan that the UFC didn't address it. You know, they didn't. The UFC didn't put it down as a DQ loss on Bruno Silva's record. Like, that wasn't a knockout. Like, he left right eye poked the dude until he fell to the ground, and then he started like following up with some ground and pound.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It was disturbing. Yeah,
but
it was very disturbing.
The refs don't ref fights anymore. Nobody gets in the way when people cheat. It's ridiculous.
I mean, even my boy, see you at the top, Michael Chandler, fucking, he was using every single foul he could find in the book.
No, that's a misinterpretation of the rules.
Hey, I was for it. I was like, come on, Chandler, do what you need to.
I know, I was excited for him, but I didn't. It sucks. Like, even I don't understand how he can sit here and say.
But even then, right? Like, even that, like, striking to the back of the head is more forgivable than intentionally eye poking somebody. And the reason I'm going to say that, and we're going to talk about some strikes to the back of the head leading up in a few fights as well. I'm going to bring it up. When you're striking, you can be in motion and your opponent can be in motion. Things can accidentally hit people in the back of the head. And also, like, the rule set is to the ear, which is a very broad spectrum, because if your forearm hits the ear and your elbow hits the back of the head, whatever, you know, they can kind of get away with it with the rule set. Whereas poking somebody in the eye, there's no accidental about it. I mean, they slow it down in the replays and they show you going knuckle deep in somebody's eye socket. So it is what it is. We're going to move on. We're both on Eric Anders here.
Yes,
Chris
sir.
Weidman, pack your bags. You know, I hope his dad comes out and says there's still my boy over his unconscious body.
No.
Brian Battle versus Randy Brown. I'm going to start this one off.
You got it.
Brian Battle, I'm a fan of the dude. Okay, I'm going to start off by saying I was so heavy on Brian Battle. Brian Battle was a former pick of mine in multiple fights. I did pick against him in his last outing against Kevin Jusay. And while a lot of people were saying that was a standout performance for Brian Battle, I think Kevin Jusay looked slow as fuck in that fight. He didn't utilize footwork. He just hung out on the cage and ate Brian Battle's shots. It wasn't a testament to how good Brian Battle was. And I think it was one of the worst performances I've ever seen out of Kevin Jusay. And further still, he was getting pieced up in that fight. Absolutely pieced up. Brian Battle's best performance came against Ange Lusa, which unfortunately did end due to, would you believe it? It was an eye poke. And, you know, Brian Battle, he's a very tenacious guy. He's a good striker, and he's a great grappler. And a lot of people are looking at his last performance here, and they're thinking that was an amazing performance. He's going to come in here. He's going to storm the gates. Well, let me introduce you to Rude Boy Randy Brown, a plus 205 underdog at the time of recording right now. Randy Brown knocked out Muslim Salikov with probably the cleanest jab to 1-1-2 that I've ever seen. You know, jab, jab, and the two. The way he slid onto that, the way he angled off mid-strike, it was fucking picture perfect. This dude has great boxing. His takedown defense is a little bit lackluster, but he's always been improving on his jiu-jitsu. He is now 34 years old, and I believe he's hitting the prime of his career. He's coming off of a win over Zaleski dos Antos, an opponent that, in my opinion, would smoke Brian Battle. And I'm going to say it right now. I think Randy Brown is going to be the parlay buster. The amount of people that have been sending me parlays with Brian Battle in it. Brian Battle's a lock. Brian Battle's going to smoke Randy Brown. Guess what? Randy Brown is battle tested. He's been there. He's done that. He is not going to be intimidated. And he's not going to stand there and trade like Kevin Jusay did. He's not going to stand there and try and go toe-to-toe with him. Why? Because he's a better striker. And that's not what you do when you are the better striker. You utilize footwork, you utilize hand speed, and Brian Battle's chin way up in the air with that long neck of his is going to get knocked the fuck out. Over to you, Clenbat.
Well, I think you broke him down really well. I don't need to break down the styles for you again, but I'm not confident in Randy Brown to get the job done whatsoever, but I am so with you on this being a potential parlay buster. Everybody is on Brian Battle right now. They're both great. I think they're both great. I think Brian Battle is improving every single time that he gets out there, but Randy Brown, he's a very proven fighter. He's pretty precise. He's a tall, long striker, which I know the reach is pretty close there, but still, like, Randy Brown's so good at what he does. I could very well see him just getting the job done. I think you broke it down perfectly. I have a lot of the same things to say, to be honest.
And your official pick is going to be?
Another one. I think it's, I could see it going either way, but I'm going to pick Brian Battle because I think he has been improving more recently. And Randy Brown, we know he can be chinned. I'm not counting on it, but I'm more inclined to pick Battle to get the win, but I absolutely could see Randy Brown being the parlay buster, 100%.
All right, so you're taking Brian Battle by decision?
Oh, I'm sorry. Finish.
Knockout.
You think
you win
knockout.
All right, knockout. Let's go. All right, well, you heard it here. Between me and Clenbat, fight's not going the distance.
Yeah, I'm so excited for that fight. I'm so excited for that one. This whole card is fantastic.
Movsar Evloev taking on Aljamain Sterling, and I will catch up with some chats after this one. Movsar Evloev versus Aljamain Sterling. I will let you start this off because, I got a pretty strong lean on this one.
I do as well, but we'll get into it. We'll get into it, okay? So, you know what? I'll start off by saying it. I have a bad history of predicting Aljamain Sterling fights incorrectly. So I always want to stop myself because I'll just say it. I'm very confident in Movsar Evloev to get the job done. But looking back at Sterling's fights, I picked Petr Yan to beat him, lost a split decision. I picked TJ Dillashaw to murder him. I don't recall who, if I probably picked Henry Cejudo to win. Sean O'Malley said it was 50-50, and I picked Calvin Kattar to beat Aljamain Sterling. So in saying this, I'm confident that Movsar will get the job done, but I have a bad history of picking Aljamain Sterling fights wrong. Other than that, Movsar Evloev, he's a very well-rounded fighter. He shines in grappling and controlling pressure. His striking is good as well. He has amazing heart. He has amazing cardio. In my opinion, he is the real deal in the featherweight division. And we all know Aljamain Sterling at this point is a strong grappler with okay takedowns but once he gets there, he shines. He has excellent control, transitions. He's pretty smooth, like just on the mat in general. Now, what I'm really worried about for Sterling is the recent rule change. Aljamain Sterling's one of those guys that are going to suffer from just crawling on the ground up to his opponents. He can get kneed in the face. He can get caught really bad. So I think that will work against him. I think even if Sterling is able to get a hold of Evloev, I think that Evloev will be better. I don't think he'll be able to be controlled. I don't know about completely out-grapple him, but I just think, like, no matter what Sterling does, I think Evloev will be better. Striking, grappling, I'm very, very confident in that, but I keep stopping myself because I keep picking Sterling fights wrong. What do you think about this one?
All right, guys. So, Clenbat is leaning towards Evloev, but he's concerned about Aljamain, the Funk Master, Sterling. If we were giving out awards for best actor in the UFC, don't worry, it would be Aljamain Sterling. He acted his way to a UFC championship. If we are giving out awards for potentially the most boring bantamweight to ever exist, it is also Aljamain Sterling. If we are giving out awards for guys that have zero quality wins, that have trying to talk about a title shot up at featherweight, there is only one. His name is Aljamain Sterling. He beat the ghost of Calvin Kattar. Calvin Kattar turned up in that fight and threw nothing. I think his total strike count was less than 30. Calvin Kattar showed up. Even his corner, every time he went to the stool, was like, what are you doing, Calvin? Show us something. Show us that there is life between those fucking eyes. And that's the win that people are talking about, Oh, well, Aljamain Sterling looked good. No, he didn't. That was at UFC 300. That was one of the highest ticketed events of all time. One of the most prestiged events that you could ever be at. And Aljamain Sterling talked about a $300K bonus at the fucking press conference, then went out there and laid and prayed on Calvin Kattar's back for 15 minutes, and he started striking with him in the last 25 seconds to act like he was fighting in there. Aljamain Sterling pissed Dana White off. He pissed the fans off. That was a piss break of a fight. It was boring as fuck. Aljamain Sterling never looked dangerous. He's not going to look dangerous here. People were talking about, what if he backpacks Movsar Evloev? I think if he goes to backpack Movsar Evloev, he's going to grab his foot, get him off of him, then turn around and beat his fucking ass. Movsar Evloev is not going to look boring in this fight. He's not going to be scared of Aljamain Sterling. Aljamain Sterling was a bit of a weight bully at bantamweight. Movsar Evloev is going to be bigger than him. You're giving me an 18-0 undefeated Russian prospect who has smoked 3 of the top 10. Smoked 3 of the top 10, and now he's going to fight somebody that doesn't even have a top 10 win in Aljamain Sterling. Coming up here, who's 35 years old and a wrestler. His knees are already cooked. Give me Movsar Evloev, slam of the week, probably lock of the fucking year. He is going to pound Aljamain Sterling's face in here, and everybody's calling him Decisionator. I think he wins this fight by KO. Give me Movsar Evloev, the only man that can contend against Ilia Topuria to win this fight by knockout.
You think that he's going to KO Sterling, eh? I
I
see
think he's
this one
gonna
going to
go.
decision. I just see it being
I think
very
he's gonna elbow
one-sided.
his fucking face in. I think he's gonna elbow his face in.
Wow. All right. I'll keep that in mind. I'll keep that in mind. It's exciting, man. I think this is where Sterling runs featherweight run ends against Movsar
By the way,
Evloev.
bet of the week is probably Movsar Evloev by decision. Just throwing that out.
I know. I keep my heart is saying, or my brain is saying that, but I'm also like, I picked so many of Sterling's fights incorrectly. What if he just does it again somehow?
The
Crazy.
number for Movsar Evloev just to win right now, he's about $1.40. It's fine. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Actually, he's at $1.30 something. I'm fine with that. That's an okay bet. A lot of people try reaching too hard. You don't pick Movsar Evloev. If you got another confident pick of yours on the card, parlay them together. Play it like that. Don't reach too hard. This is where people lose their bankroll. This is where the bookies win. It's where the casinos win. Everybody wants to pick the round, do all this. Look, I make most of my money by betting 2 or 3 leg confident parlays, and that's it. And I leave them at money lines. Maybe I'll throw a women's fight round lean in there. That's where I win most of my money. That's the God's honest truth. Anyway, we're both on Movsar Evloev, and you're thinking that Aljamain Sterling could upset the apple cart here. One of us is going to be incredibly right, and the other one is going to be, maybe less so. Anyway, we've got Vicente Luque taking on Timber Garimbo. I'll let you kick this one off as well. I don't have a particularly strong lean here, but I do have a side that I have already placed a bet on.
All right, so we have Vicente Luque. He's a well-rounded, high-volume, technical fighter with a lot of cardio and a lot of heart. He can typically contest his opponents anywhere, but in recent times, I don't know if it's a past his prime issue or if it's a brain bleed issue, because we all know that Vicente Luque had the bad brain bleed, right? And he just has not looked like the Vicente Luque that became a fan favorite, right? Especially like against the Sanjos, he fought more so with fight IQ. It was okay in his return. He just wasn't going all chaotic, but the Buckley fight, like, I have no clue what happened. He did nothing that entire fight. And I'm high on Buckley too. I think he's a great fighter. I just think it's an issue that Luque isn't the same guy after the brain bleed. I'm assuming that's what it is. I don't think it's a prime issue. I don't think it's a damage issue that he's taking. I mean, like, he did take a lot of damage, but you know what I mean. I don't think Vicente Luque is the same fighter that he once was. Themba Greenbow, on the other hand, he's a good striker. He uses his range pretty well. He likes to take his time with his shots, keep you at bay. He's okay at counter-striking too, and he has okay takedown defense. I think that Themba Greenbow is just going to do what we've seen him do. Control, keep distance. And I feel differently if this was a Vicente Luque that was like fighting Tyron Woodley or something. But I don't see like the killer in Vicente Luque that's going to go after him. I think that Themba's just going to keep him at range, maybe keep him in a clinch the whole time, and I think he's going to coast his way to a decision.
Yeah, I mean, and that's fair enough. That's a read that I've got similar reads on that one. And I'm going to expand on that because I do have some information here that, I may have said to you, I may not have. But it'll be news for most of the chat here anyway. In regards to Vicente Luque, Vicente Luque was once one of my favorite fighters in the welterweight division. When he caved in Mike Perry's nose with that elbow and made him look like a freaking cartoon Play-Doh figure that has his nose all splayed over his face, opened up with blood, I was thinking this guy could be a future champion. Now, fast forward a few years and a brain bleed. When he took on Joaquin Buckley, I picked Joaquin Buckley. I picked Joaquin Buckley by KO. That was not a KO from Joaquin Buckley. And I spoke to Joaquin Buckley on one of his live streams. He had me over and he spoke to me and he said one of the things in that fight that very much surprised him is he landed a strike early. It wasn't the finishing sequence strike. He landed a strike early, and after that, Vicente Luque felt like he was shrimping away and freezing every time that he would close the distance and engage on him. And then when he did hit him with the shot that put him down, he said it wasn't a hard shot. Buckley recognized that wasn't very hard, the shot that put him down. And so he followed up with ground and pound, and they called it a KO. But the reality is Vicente Luque took a hard shot early on, not a fight-ending shot, and he packed his bags and he went home against Joaquin Buckley. That was not a thing that existed in a Vicente Luque fight prior. He didn't have a quit button. He didn't have a I want to be out of here button. He was an animal. He was a savage, and he would always fight for your money. He wouldn't always win. You could beat him by decision, but now we know Vicente Luque has the ability to quit inside of fights as well as be controlled in takedowns. Timber Garimbo has two things in abundance. He has decision equity in this fight, and he has big power. He does have some raw strike, but there's no arguing with Timber Garimbo's power. So I'm going to take Timber Garimbo to win this fight by either KO or decision.
I could see him getting the KO as well. I think it's more likely to get the decision, but looks like we're in agreement there.
Yeah, for sure. I'm
There's
going to
not
catch
much
up with some chat.
There's
some
not
chat
much to
here, if that's all
disagree
right with
with.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
well, there could be more. You know, I feel like usually we do have a lot more disagreements. So
Yeah.
either we're both going to have a very good night here, or a very bad night so far. I
Absolutely.
got a lot riding on bets this year. I'm just going to catch up on some chat here anyway. We got Nate Brown saying the average age of Randy Brown's last 4 opponents was 38. Kind of hard to trust those performances. I disagree, and especially with the Zaleski dos Santos performance. We just saw Zaleski dos Santos take on a young, undefeated prospect in short notice, and he dealt with
I just muted my
how
mic
you
for
would
a
expect
second.
a veteran
But
to.
thank you for
He
joining
went
the
in there
chat,
and
guys.
finished him
Usually I
early
come
in the
here.
first round.
Usually I sit down here and I have some just chat and streams, but I appreciate you guys tuning in. Sorry, of course, the focus is going to be with Bad Sam over here because obviously we're streaming together right now.
Also, 10-8'd Renat Fakhretdinov in that last round of their fight. So I'm high on Zaleski dos Santos and his durability as well as his power.
He surprised me in recent times.
Zaleski?
Yeah.
Well, Zaleski holds a spinning heel kick win KO over Sean Strickland. So the dude's dangerous. You know, not many people can say they knocked out Sean Strickland. So,
it's true.
There's only two people actually. It's him and Alex Pereira. So that's something to consider. Also catching up here, we got Nate Brown says, I think Randy could KO Brian early, but his power doesn't carry late if he's forced to work. Wellington Turman beating Randy up in the third round is a bad look in my opinion. I just watched that fight. He didn't beat him up in the third round. Randy Brown can be controlled sometimes on the ground. He doesn't really get beat up. You know, you look at Randy Brown at the end of every fight, his face is fine. He's not damaged. He's not beat up. In that Zaleski dos Santos fight as well, a lot of people thought that was a back and forth war. You go back and you watch that fight and you turn down the volume a little bit. Randy Brown dominated that fight. Even in the submission attempts here, the submission attempt was never actually in. It was a face crank that he was not concerned about, and he punched his way out of that, which shows you how comfortable he felt in that exchange there. I think that he gets better and better all the time. Anyway, we're going to move on from this fight, and we got Anthony Smith and Dominic Reyes coming up here.
All right, you want me to get this one going?
I feel like I'll get this one going here because I have a stronger lane, I imagine. Dominic Reyes here, a lot of people are talking about how Dominic Reyes is inconsistent, this, that, how many wins he has, and there's... Look, a lot of people say you're only as good as your last performance. Dominic Reyes had a tremendous last performance. He fought Dustin Jacoby. If I'm not wrong here, I do believe that Clenbat had Dustin Jacoby in that matchup.
Yes. Oh, I was very confident.
Well, I cashed a nice little $20 bet into 230 on picking the round and KO there from
I remember
from Dominic
you saying
Reyes.
that. Yeah, I forgot about that.
So Dominic Reyes, listen, I believed in him. He did beat John Jones in the first couple of rounds of their championship fight, and that's because he is athletic. He's a big guy. He's been doing this for a long time, but he doesn't have the battle damage of Anthony Smith. Anthony Lionheart used to be my guy. I watched him for a long time. He used to be that dude where it was like, man, if you can put up with 5 to 7.5 minutes of Anthony Smith and you make it through, then you can beat him. But he was always hell on wheels for the first 5 to 7 minutes of a fight. He's not that guy anymore, guys. Anthony Smith is 36 years old, going on 92 years old. You can tell that his joints hurt. You can tell that he doesn't have the movement of before. He doesn't have takedowns anymore. People are talking about Anthony Smith's ground game and all the rest of it. I don't know if this dude can bend his fucking knees. Anthony Smith has that win over Vitor Petrino, where Vitor Petrino said, you know, look, Anthony Smith, I know you've been having a hard time lately and a bunch of dudes have been knocking you out. So let me just place myself into your guillotine and then jump all the way in for it so that you can find yourself a nice submission win here. That was one of the most retarded pieces of fight IQ I've ever seen in my fucking life. And yes, it busted my parlay. I had Vitor Petrino in that matchup there. I think it was UFC Brazil. I'm still mad about it. Dominic Reyes is going to knock this motherfucker out. Anthony Smith is old. He's working the desk job. Dominic Reyes still has aspirations to be a champion, and he believes God put him on this earth to do fist fighting. Give me Dominic Reyes here. He's not breaking into Anthony Smith's house. He's not stealing from his family, but he is going to knock him out.
Man, I'm inclined to pick Dominic Reyes with you there. The problem is I don't know if Dominic Reyes actually is chinny or if he's been put through murderer's row with Yuri, Jan, and Ryan Spann, because all of them can just take you clean out, right? But then he bounced back, and I thought the same thing was going to happen against Dustin Jacoby, and he came in and kind of looked like the Dominic Reyes that we all know, coming in aggressive, looking to finish people, and like you said, the guy who wants to be a champion. I think that he's better, younger than Smith in every single department, but I worry about it. Like, is he actually chinny? Has his chin gone? Or is he, like I said, been put through just the worst of the worst? I don't want to say that Anthony Smith can catch him, but it looks like it was so easy to knock out Dominic Reyes. If that doesn't happen, I think he's going to destroy Anthony Smith. He's going to be more aggressive. Even if Anthony Smith wants to grapple, I don't think it's going to work. He's going to be bigger. He's going to be stronger. I think he's just going to probably TKO Anthony Smith.
Yeah, so we're both on Dominic Reyes by KO here, and like could Anthony Smith win this fight? Yes, it's just not going to happen in this life. So yeah, we're moving on. We got Nate the Train, baby. Nate Landwehr taking on Do Ho Choi. We have Nate the Train, who is a -165 favorite at the time of recording, against Do Ho Choi, the ever-exciting Korean Superboy, at a +135 underdog here. And I did not realize that Nate Landwehr was 36 years old. The dude is old, man. I know he looked kind of old, but I thought he was just one of those country boys that kind of looks old because he's been out in the sun for a while. I don't have a particular lean in this fight, but I am going to make my pick, so I'll let you run this one off first because you might have more of a stronger desire in this matchup than me.
Well, I'm with you. I think this is closer to a pick'em, to be honest with you. Nate Landwehr, high-pressure wrestler, shines when dragging people to the ground, spamming takedowns, holding opponents, using his volume to break people. Unfortunately, his technical striking needs some work, and he can be clipped, and that's where I see the Superboy actually having a little bit of success, kind of like how we saw in Danny Ige just a little bit. But anyways, Do Ho Choi, he's a decently well-rounded fighter, excels at striking. He has all the heart in the world. He's more than capable of participating in a brawl. And this is my question about the fight is, we know that Landwehr is going to push the pace, and also how long is Landwehr going to be able to push that like insane pace for? Because he's 36 years old now, going on 37. I worry about that, but he hasn't shown any signs of slowing down yet. It's such a tough fight to pick for me because I could see it going where Landwehr just completely breaks him down, but I could also see Do Ho Choi just staying composed again, like we saw with Dan Ige, just taking his time, picking his shots, because Nate Landwehr can be clipped. I think it's a very, very close fight. If you made me pick, I'd pick Do Ho Choi by decision, just edging him out with the technique. And yeah, this one's a really, really tough one to pick. What do you think?
So it's funny you talk about it in that sense because, I'm going to reference back to you talking about Aljamain Sterling. I've been bad at picking Nate Landwehr fights, and that's because when you watch him fight, you're like, this dude's got holes all over his striking. And people light him up. It's not like Nate Landwehr makes it out of these fights, not beat up. He fought against David Onama in one of those Fight of the Year comebacks where Nate Landwehr, cut a sick promo after, getting his face smashed in and then coming back and defeating David Onama. And that's kind of the story of a Nate Landwehr fight because he comes forward and his takedowns, he's not in the Nurmagomedov. He doesn't get in on the legs straight away and avoid the damage. He has to strike his way inside a distance, make it ugly, and then get the takedowns. So to say that Nate Landwehr is just going to win this fight because he's got takedowns and Do Ho Choi doesn't have takedown defense, that's not kind of how Nate Landwehr fights. He's going to have to make it through some fire, make Do Ho Choi think he's going to stand and strike with him to be able to get that wrestling going. And if he does that, I do think Do Ho Choi is going to have a power advantage. I think that he's a little bit more technical on the feet. And Nate Landwehr can only get by on the skin of his teeth so many times before it hits him in the face. And while I've been burned a little bit in the past year, I already said I'm probably not betting on this one, but if you told me, hey, Sam, here's $100, you got to go bet it on this fight here, I'd have to take Do Ho Choi by KO or decision because how can I pick a guy that I don't believe is the better striker here and is going to have to stand and strike with him? I picked Jamal Emmers, and he was lighting Nate Landwehr up. Nate Landwehr eventually did find a strike there that sort of put Jamal Emmers on notice and then managed to find the finish there. But Nate Landwehr, that fight only went a couple of minutes, and you could see Nate Landwehr was all kinds of beat up. Yes, he won. Is he going to be able to do that forever? Knocking on the door of 37 here. He's taking on a guy that we know has power here. Slightly bigger dude as well. I like Do Ho Choi to win this fight by KO or decision.
Yeah, but like the issue with Nate Landwehr is everything you said makes a ton of sense. But then Landwehr just walks out and throws his chin in the air and wins.
That's why I'm not betting on it. I'm not placing a single dollar on this fight. But, for the degenerates in the chat, if you want to bet on every single fight, I'm going Do Ho Choi. Yeah.
What do you think of a 1.5?
Over?
Yeah. That's something I was considering myself.
We don't have props. I wish we had props because there's so much I would love to discuss from a value standpoint. I've been looking for props everywhere. I haven't found many props. If you can see an over 1.5 prop here right now, let me know and I'll talk to you about that from a value standpoint. If you've got anything up.
I was just thinking like I was gonna see what they ended up being once everything got released. Yeah,
well, if I was to line it at a number that I think I could feel comfortable taking, the number would have to be over plus 140 for me to consider taking.
Okay,
for over 1.5.
That's fair.
I think it makes sense as well because you watch the Nate Landwehr fights. There's car crashes that happen early. Duo Choi has been known to throw his technique out the window and just jump into a sling and fight. So it is what it is.
I think it's gonna be a good fight regardless. We got Nate the Train in the crowd. I'm excited.
I kind of wish Nate the Train would win just so that I can hear a weird as fuck interview again. Just
I like
I'm not invested in either of their careers. So like Nate the Train would kind of gas me up more. I'm going to be doing a watch party for this as well, so that would be more hype for the watch party and gassing everybody up, But Nate the Train, I'll be damned if I ain't handsome, He's like a bit of a Nate Diaz knockoff mixed with like a Cowboy Cerrone. You can understand him more than Diaz, and he's kind of like a little bit more country. So, yeah, he's fun to listen to for sure.
Bang, what's up with that?
Then we got Bryce Mitchell taking on Cron Gracie. I don't imagine that this is going to be the fight where we disagree as well. No. I am going to put caution here. This isn't a breakdown, but Bryce Mitchell got knocked out viciously, We thought that Josh Emmett caught a freaking manslaughter charge here when he hit Bryce Mitchell with one of the KOs of the year. That was an absolutely savage baseball throw of a punch that he landed on Bryce Mitchell, folded him up, sent him into seizures. Bryce Mitchell was forced to take a long time off of the sport. Bryce Mitchell here at minus 600. Cron Gracie does suck. He's looked awful in all of his fights here. But I need to see what Bryce Mitchell looks like coming back off of something like that because you just don't know. Like Vicente Luque coming back after that brain bleed. You don't know what people look like after these traumatic events, and that's what they are, Imagine yourself getting knocked out viciously in front of a crowd to the point where you're seizuring and you're watching replays of some dude just viciously knock you out and then stomp around screaming in the octagon. So, it's one of those instances where Tony Ferguson hadn't been KO'd properly, and then he gets a foot to the face from Michael Chandler, and it shattered the last fiber of his being. So, what does already unhinged Bryce Mitchell look like after getting savagely KO'd? Initially, I thought this was a free square and a free little leg to a parlay. Now I'm looking at it like, stay away, to be honest with you. I got to see something out of Bryce Mitchell here. The pick's going to be Bryce Mitchell. I think he wins this fight by submission or decision, but I'm not betting it. I'm staying off it.
Yeah, I don't even think the value's really there, to be honest with you. But you're right. Like he should win this fight, Bryce Mitchell. But you always have to worry when somebody gets knocked out that bad because that was a beyond bad knockout, right? But will he show up and be hesitant against Cron Gracie? Like the danger isn't there, but then again, if you got knocked out that really bad, maybe you'll just be hesitant regardless because it's a UFC fight. But then again, you could also just change as a person after that knockout. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's you said it pretty well. Stay away from this one. The value isn't even there. I got Bryce Mitchell winning though.
I agree as well, but it's one of those situations where Bryce Mitchell's best asset of his game is wrestling. And so he's going to be wrestling a literal Gracie who was like the namesake of jiu-jitsu. And so there is, if Cron Gracie gets a submission win over Bryce Mitchell here, can you really be surprised? And then you'll sit there thinking, well, why the fuck did I put $200 parlay with a couple of locks such as Movsar Evloev and freaking, I'm not going to say any other names because I was about to say them, but then they're my picks. But, putting your locks in there and then you bet freaking minus 600 Bryce Mitchell for less than a 10% addition to your parlay in a fight where he's going to play into his opponent's game. I think it just doesn't make sense here. I'm staying away from it. And you're basically on the same namesake. It's saying if this fight was a minus 150 line or minus 200 line for Bryce Mitchell, I could see myself getting to the betting window. But at minus 600, the train of value is left the station and it's out of view,
I'm completely agreeing with you on that.
All right, this could be our first disagreement. We got Cyril Gane taking on Alexander Volkov. Let me know who you're picking and why.
All right. Yeah, I do know we have a disagreement on this one. We have Cyril Gane, strong wrestler wrestler. Sorry.
Oh my God, he's been wrestling? Hell yeah.
Strong striker. Wow, I can't speak. Oh my God.
Cyril Gane, the guy that submitted John Jones in the first round.
Yeah. Anyways, strong striker who technically is miles ahead of the heavyweight division. On the feet, he's fantastic. He has good movement, cardio, diversity of shots, power. The only hole that he's shown is his grappling. He doesn't necessarily do all that much. But Alexander Volkov, on the other hand, I think he's put together a really nice, sneaky, quiet win streak against decent competition, too. He's a good striker, shown good fight IQ, tall, long, has good durability. Although, what's interesting is Gane has more reach than him in this matchup. I understand where everybody's coming from in saying that Gon's just going to light him up the entire time. I wouldn't be shocked if that happened, but I think that Volkov could potentially explore the ground game. I think that he's still improving, even at 36 years old right now. He's gotten some nice wins against Rosenstruik, against Sergey Pavlovich. Like, he's been looking good in these last fights. And I also worry about Cyril Gon's motivation because I can't remember if I mentioned this. I think I mentioned in one of my videos where I was watching just something, or my wife was watching something on Netflix, and Cyril Gon was just in the background. Like, this dude's an actor now. He's a star over in France. I question his motivation, and I also question it with the John Jones loss. Like, because he tapped pretty quick there. But then again, like, the problem is it's John Jones, right? He could just have an insane grip. I don't know. It worries me a little bit. I'm going to have a very, very slight lean for Volkov. I think he has more options. I think he's still improving, and I could very well see him getting the job done. But I understand why everybody's picking Gon in this fight. Well, obviously not everybody, but you get what I mean. I'm picking Alexander Volkov. Not so sure about a method of victory. Probably decision, but Volkov's going to be a pick of mine. I'm definitely not betting on this one, though.
All right. Well, Cyril Gane versus Alexander Volkov. Look, Cyril Gane was at $1.40 when I bet him. And yes, I bet Cyril Gane. I bet him weeks ago. I parlayed him with Petr Yan. Obviously, Petr Yan went out there 50-45 to Davison Figueiredo. So that is a big green tick. We're just waiting on Cyril Gane to go in here and get it done. And people are comparing the loss to John Jones and something that is a big black stain on Cyril Gane, right? We all know there are divisional skill gaps, right? That has been showed, that has been exploited many times. John Jones is one of the most skilled athletes across all of the roster. Doesn't matter what division you go. If you look at what John Jones is capable of, between his wrestling, between his striking difference, between his submission skill set, John Jones has it all. He has everything. John Jones has never lost. Yes, Cyril Gane went out there and tapped, and I think it was the speed of the loss that is giving everybody such a hard time, not the fact that he lost to John Jones in that matchup here. One thing I will say there is nothing has changed for Alexander Volkov since the first fight. Alexander Volkov is the same guy. He's slightly thicker. That's not going to help him at all here. Cyril Gane has two things in abundance that Alexander Volkov will not be able to contend with. That is hand speed and footwork. Both of those things are immensely better than Alexander Volkov. And I'll go one step further and say everybody in the heavyweight division except maybe, and this is maybe, except maybe Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall also pretty fast. I don't think his footwork is quite as good, but Cyril Gane here, before Tom Aspinall existed on the scene, he was the guy where you thought to yourself when you were watching him, how is this man a heavyweight? Because he moves so fast, he moves so light on his toes there, that he was a joy to watch. He moved better than 90% of the light heavyweight roster, let alone the heavyweight roster. Cyril Gane is fast, he is accurate, he is slick, and yes, he's French and he's a little bit arrogant, but one thing that I like to see from him in his interview in The Embedded is that Cyril Gane said, what did the loss to John Jones do to him? He said it humbled him. It created that revenge instinct inside of him. He is angry now, and when he is training, he thinks, I've got to be better. Before, he thought he was the complete product. Even in his losses against Francis Ngannou, he was able to make this excuse that going, I sort of won that fight, and Francis Ngannou wasn't trying to fight me, he was just laying on me, all this other things. He lost to Jones. He admits that, and he said that it created a drive inside of him. He's not taking Volkov lightly in this fight. He has brought on two new sparring partners for that. Both of them, one 6'6", one 6'7". They're both kickboxers, and he's bringing them in. And his coach, Fernando Lopez, is cycling them in and out against Cyril Gane so that Cyril Gane gets tired and he still has to evade prime, tall kickboxers like Alexander Volkov. And when you talk about the grappling department, Cyril Gane went out there and fucking smoked. It wasn't even close. Fucking smoked Sergey Spivak. Sergey Spivak is a better wrestler than Volkov. He's a better submission threat. So we've seen Cyril Gane patch up the issues that you thought he might have had. He is showing you that he is dominating in fights against wrestlers. So the wrestling, out of here. Fucking Alexander Volkov, 36 years old. He doesn't have the knees to wrestle. He's never showcased wrestling in his UFC career. What are we talking about here? And when it comes to the striking, he's already won this fight. He already had a kickboxing fight with Alexander Volkov. And what has changed in there? Volkov's got older. Volkov just beat Sergey Pavlovich. So what? Sergey Pavlovich is a flat-footed ogre that was walking forward with no fucking brain and getting jabbed to pieces. Cyril Gane can strike moving laterally, vertically. He could strike if he had a jetpack attached to his back. He could be striking people. This dude is the real deal. He is a striking genius. I think he's going to go out there. Not only does he beat Volkov, I think he finishes them this time. Give me Cyril Gane to win this fight by knockout.
Ooh, it's nice that we actually have a disagreement on this card. Can't wait to watch it either way.
Yeah, it's going to be, it's a great fight. And the fact that it's 3 rounds as well, I do believe favors Cyril Gane here because he can go hard. He is an athletic dude that has a lot of muscle, and Volkov's kind of a little bit leaner, a little bit taller. Cyril Gane can explode in this matchup here and not have to worry about what he looks like after 15 minutes.
Yeah,
so
well said.
That favors him.
You certainly make a good case.
Moving on to the co-main event here, we have Shavkat Rakhmonov, 18-0, undefeated prospect, who holds a 100%, that is right, you heard it correctly, 100% finish rate, which is almost unheard of, especially here in this division. Taking on Ian Machado Gary, who does have some finishes sprinkled throughout the mix, but is ultimately still seen by most of the population as a bit of a decisionator. And Shavkat Rakhmonov, at the time of recording, it says here he's a minus 350 favorite. The comeback on Ian Machado Gary here, it says plus 275. On my sportsbook, he's actually plus 310. He is all the way up to $4.10 if you use the decimal system like myself here. And I think that the odds are wide, but I'm going to let you talk about this one first, and I will come in after.
All right, I cannot wait for this fight. We have Shavkat Rakhmonov, who we all know at this point. Of course, we all know every fighter right now, but he's an insane finisher, knockout power, strong takedowns, strong submissions. He obviously shines when he's on the ground. He's always hunting for ways to finish his opponents. He does a really good job at just overwhelming people with his presence in there. On the feet, though, if you can drag him into a war, I think that you are able to catch Shavkat Rakhmonov being sloppy. But even in saying that, he's so good at just imposing his will, always looking for a finish. Ian Gary, on the other hand, he's a kickboxer. He has great calf kicks. He throws some range perfectly, although he has weirdly short arms for how he looks. He has insanely sneaky knees. He's confident. He's precise. He's active. He can overcome adversity to get his wins. And from what we've seen, and I didn't know this until recently, I didn't know that he was training with Charles Oliveira more. I thought it was just for the one fight. So we have seen an evolving BJJ game, an evolving wrestling game, and that was obviously showcased in his last fight. Nothing really shined, but of course, he now has those options. Sometimes he can struggle with pressure. If someone's on him, he can be a little bit problematic, and that's where I see Shavkat Rakhmonov having some success. But I'm picking Shavkat to get the job done. I'm going to pick him by submission. I'm kind of like a 70-30 on this fight right now, though, because I could see Ian Gary surviving. And if he does, if Shavkat just continues to come forward and forward and forward and forward, I think Ian Gary can time a very, very sneaky knee. He can land some counters, and he can make it a little bit of work for Shavkat to come forward with his attack. So I think he's going to be most dangerous in the first round. If he gets out of there, it's going to turn into a war, and that's where Ian Gary has his chance to win. I still am picking Shavkat to get the job done. He's imposed as well on everybody. I have no reason to not believe he's going to do that to Gary. I'm going to pick him by submission in the first round. What do you think?
All right, so we got Shavkat Rakhmonov by submission, and you're saying in the first round. That's your prediction?
Yes.
We just watched Charles Oliveira fight Michael Chandler. I picked Michael Chandler. Charles Oliveira, his BJJ looked better than ever. His control looked better than ever. And he also found ways to stay safe on the ground when it got there, not on his own terms. Ian Machado Gary, right? That Machado is very important in there. Ian Machado Gary identifies as Brazilian. Look, it's 2024. You can just make up wherever the fuck you're from at this point. Ian Machado Gary, the Irishman, says he's a Brazilian at this point. And if he says it, sure, I believe him. He trains at Shooter Box. He has been improving his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu all the time. He has been trying to amalgamate and complete his game with the wrestling department, which we saw he was able to squeak out a win against Michael Venom Page. And before anybody shits on that victory, no one else in the UFC has currently beaten Michael Venom Page. So just bear that in mind. We haven't seen what MVP looks like against other UFC competition other than when he styled on Kevin Holland and made him look like he didn't know how to strike. So Ian Machado Gary in this matchup here at plus 275 to plus 300 underdog here against Shavkat Rakhmonov. Shavkat Rakhmonov has finished everybody, and he has won his fights by finish. Good for him. Ian Machado Gary has had 15 outings in professional fighting and has never been finished. I'm not going to assume that Shavkat can just go out here and finish Ian Gary. So what does this look like when it gets long? I'm also not assuming that Shavkat Rakhmonov is going to finish. But I am going to take Ian Gary here. Ian Gary has all of the value on him here. If this was a 50-50 fight, if they were $1.90, $1.90, I'm taking Shavkat Rakhmonov, right? Because yes, he has the danger upside here. But Ian Gary is young. He is hungry. He's 27 years old. He's in his prime right now. He is not quite as big as Shavkat Rakhmonov, but he manages range better than him. He could dart in and out better than him. His Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, his pure BJJ here, will be good enough that I think he doesn't get submitted in round one. I think that the threat of Shavkat Rakhmonov here and his physical imposing presence is the biggest thing that Ian Gary needs to overcome here, because Ian Gary has all the skills to win this fight. He can win this fight. Like skill for skill here, this is two men made of flesh golems here fighting. They're both able to lose this fight, but Ian Gary needs to get past the allure, the illusion of Shavkat Rakhmonov and that 18-0 finishing record. And if he convinces himself that he belongs in there and can win and gets out of round one and it's not too dangerous, then I'm going Ian Gary. I think I'm going to take Ian Gary to win, and I'm going to parlay it with over 1.5 rounds.
Ooh. Yeah, that's actually a really good bet. If Ian Gary does win, it's, in my opinion, definitely going to go over 1.5.
I think it's going to be over plus 500 for the over 1.5 plus Ian Gary.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's definitely a good value bet. I was thinking that Ian Gary's a good value bet in general, but yeah, if you
the gambler in me has to pick Ian Gary. You know, it has to. Yeah.
You know, I love his chances for the odds.
Yeah. All right.
So
final fight of the night that we're breaking down together between me and my boy Carl here. We got Alejandro Pantoja taking on Kai Asakura. I'll let you take this one off, and then I'll slide right in.
Unfortunately, we don't have as much to break down about this fight as the rest of the card, but we have Alexandre Pantoja, who is a grappler with... There's been debate on whether or not his striking is good, but of course his goal is to drag you to the ground. He can go through wars. The dude has all of the heart in the world. He's one of those guys that looks like he's tired and then just like pushes through it.
Exhausted.
So, yeah,
he's
so that means I guess he has good cardio. The dude's been battle tested. He's fantastic. He has amazing wins. Kai Asakura, on the other hand, this is the issue. He does not have nearly the same competition level wins as Alexandre Pantoja, but from what we have seen, he's a well-rounded fighter. He is mainly a striker with really nice power. He has good precision, a variety of shots. He does a good job with distance management. He seems like he belongs in the UFC, but they're throwing him against one of the greatest flyweights to do it. I can't pick Kai Asakura. I can't. I need to see him get, like, at the very least, a top 10 win in the UFC, at the very least, because the competition that he's taking on isn't comparable. The flyweight division is so good, and Pantoja has wins against fantastic competition. I have to pick Pantoja here. I'm going to pick him to get the job done. I'm going to pick him to get the... I could even see him submitting Kai Asakura. I'm going to pick him by decision. I'm picking Pantoja. Decently confident in saying that.
All right. Okay. So you're taking Pantoja to win by decision. Did you watch, and I'm not putting you on blast here, be honest, because, you know, not many people watch Rising. Did you watch any of Kai Asakura's fights leading up to this?
I've watched a few of his, I watched a lot of highlight videos, and I've watched a few of his recent performances.
Right. Okay. So I did a very similar thing. You know, I watched the last 3 fights of Kai Asakura. And what I took away from that is this guy is hittable as fuck. He can be taken down at the drop of a hat, and he's not as accurate as people are making out. He keeps his chin in the air, he keeps his hands down low, and he also can be taken down by lesser competition than Alexandre Pantoja. And in multiple of his fights, he started taking over when his opponents got tired. Like you say, Pantoja, even when he looks exhausted, he still gets it done. Pantoja is 5-0 against Brandon Moreno and Brandon Royval can fight. Just think that out. If you take away all the people that Brandon Royval has beaten and Brandon Moreno has beaten, because Alexander Pantoja has beaten them 5 times, you know, it's said he can beat these guys. There's basically nobody left in this fucking division. So Pantoja reigns king. He reigns supreme. And Kai Asakura, at 31 years old, dropping down from bantamweight down to flyweight, we have never seen a successful drop down from bantamweight to flyweight. Name one guy that has come down from bantamweight to flyweight and had a win in the UFC. Name one. I don't think anybody in the chat can name one guy here, unless we look it up and try and fact check ourselves. Cody Garbrandt did it, got smoked, absolutely smoked by Kai Kara France. You know, TJ Dillashaw did it and got knocked out by Henry Cejudo even while he was on steroids. It just doesn't happen. The UFC flyweight division is one of the most skilled in all the land, and Alejandro Pantoja has 5 victories over the top 2 seeds below himself. No fucking way can you safely bet on Kai Asakura here. You have to system play Alejandro Pantoja. And that aside, I can see him submitting Asakura. I can see him knocking him out. Kai Asakura is going to be cutting down weight. And what happens when you cut weight is you have less fluid in your brain. He's going to be coming down. His defense sucks. His takedown defense sucks. He's going to get knocked out or submitted. Give me Alejandro Pantoja to win this fight inside the distance. Kai Asakura is from Japan. He is not UFC level. And unless it's rigged, he's not winning this fucking fight.
You think he could knock out Kai Asakura?
I mean, I think that people with hands can knock out people with faces.
Well, I mean,
You
that's
know,
true. That's true.
I think Kai Asakura, the weight cut is why I believe he can get knocked out. You know, we
an
saw the
interesting
same
point.
thing with Cody Garbrandt had less durability. TJ Dillashaw had less durability. Why would Kai Asakura be any different?
That's a very good
why?
point.
Why would he be any different? I really don't see it. You know.
That's a good point. Well, we have a lot of
Anyway,
agreements on this card.
Yeah, that's. I feel like we only had like two or three maybe. That was very in line.
To be honest, I think it's one of the easier cards to predict.
That's what everybody says until the fight starts.
Yes, sometimes it ends up being the worst one.
Yeah. Sometimes everybody goes, "What the hell? Vitor Petrino getting subbed by Anthony Smith?"
Yeah,
What the
exactly.
hell? Yeah.
Oh, could you imagine if it goes bad? Like Sterling gets the win. I don't know who else. Like Chase Hooper ends up losing.
Do you know what's funny? A little bit of a rant here, but I went on the We Want Picks call-in show and I started talking to Angelo and Jacob, and I said to Jacob, I said, "Hey, Jacob, let me sell you on a underdog opportunity here. Let me sell you on a prop piece." And he was like, "Oh, okay, here we go, whatever, you know." And Angelo starts trying to chew me out, and I said, "Gabriela Fernandez to submit Kong Wang, 26-1 odds." I said, "What do you think about that, guys?" And they go, "Well, how's she going to get it here?" I said, "Even if Kong Wang knocks her down, or she knocks Kong Wang down and just jumps on the neck."
That's
and then
crazy.
Angelo laughs and goes, "Oh yeah, you know. Well, at least you have a vision there, pal." Well, guess what? You know, my community fucking ate. We had guys that were getting that bet at 50-1 odds on some of their sports books. One of my viewers bet $2.50, and he went the fight to go over 1.5 rounds and Gabriela Fernandez to win by submission. $2 into like $125. So,
I love that.
sometimes we find those spots. And we also said Xing Mi's probably going to upset in that fight. And she went on and got one of the most vicious head kicks out of nowhere that we've ever seen. So it was crazy. It reminded me of Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman. That head kick was just out of nowhere.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, obviously not the same gravity and not the same name value, but like the actual head kick itself was there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely going to be thinking of you with the Ian Gary over 1.5.
Yeah, you got to do it. You know, I know you place some bets. Like, do you place many bets a week?
No. Usually it's like 3-ish.
Pocket change or no?
I have money in my betting account and I just play with that.
Yeah, nice. This is not for this week, but I will tell you right now, I have over $1,000 already on Joaquin Buckley to defeat Colby Covington. I suggest that anybody that's thinking about picking Colby Covington in that fight, I think you should close all of your gambling accounts. Because you don't have a brain on your shoulders. Joaquin Buckley is better everywhere at this point. Colby Covington is a part of the old realm, and if you look through, I think he's got one fight over a current rostered competition. The rest of them have all retired.
Like that. Yeah, I think Buckley's going to steamroll him, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately, I like both guys.
I mean, if there's another guy, let me know. But I think it's just RDA that he's a win over that's still on the UFC roster. And RDA should retire. I mean, he just died from injury. So, like, at 57 years old, RDA is not in his 40s, bro. Like, you look at that guy, that's somebody's grandpa right there. RDA is old as fuck, man. Like, that's crazy. Anyway, that is going to be the breakdown, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Kyle, for joining in. Any last words for the viewers?
Hey, thank you for watching, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. As always, your time is very, very valuable. We appreciate it. And Sam, thank you very much for breaking down the card.
Hey, no worries. All right, we'll see you later, team.
Hey, see you later, Sam. Thanks.
Hey, see you, man.
Well, guys, I am going to get out of here as well. I have a couple videos to record. Stream's been doing well. Welcome, guys. Usually we just have just chatting streams, so apologies that we weren't chatting there. What's up, Colby? I'll chat for a minute. What's going on? I know there's like a stream delay. It's like, but yeah, Stormy, man, it's crazy. 1,000 bet. I think that's going to hit, though. I like Colby and I like Buckley, but I think that Buckley's going to absolutely steamroll him. And you response to Clown Show's new video. I haven't watched it. I'm not going to watch it. I'm guessing it's a little bit more of the same, but I'm not giving the dude any attention anymore. He wasn't up for an honest discussion. Wanted to talk to him a long time ago. I'm not familiar with MMA I'm not familiar with who MMA Circle Jerk is. Is it more of the same? But yeah, no response from me. I even took down the video that I made about him. It's just he wanted to have me on the live stream a long time ago, and the video's called that. Sorry, I misunderstood what you were talking about. But anyways, he wanted to have me on the live stream. He wanted to chat, and he was not up for an honest conversation. We spoke like when he was off stream, and he just wasn't about it. So, yeah, no attention from my end. But, oh well, what can you do? But anyways, guys, I'm going to get out of here. We have a fantastic fight card ahead of us. I'm very excited. Like I just said with Sam over here, your time's very valuable. I appreciate you being here. Yeah, have a good night, Colby. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys later. Take care.